we're going to go ahead and move on with the program, and I will be presenting Vice President of the Los Angeles Unified Board, Nick Melvoin. And I want to share a little bit about him before he comes and celebrates each individual school. So Nick Melvoin is the Vice President of the LUSD Board, and he represents the dynamic community of Board District 4, which includes West Los Angeles, the Hollywood area, West San Fernando Valley. And in Nick's election in May 2017, it follows a career of fighting for equal and great education for all kids. He's been a teacher, he's been a public interest attorney, a nonprofit director, and he is a graduate of Harvard College, NYU School of Law, and is just a wonderful champion that truly believes all kids in Los Angeles, all Los Angeles County and LAUSD specifically, can succeed at high levels, regardless of their zip code, regardless of their background, and also their presence in his board district. And so we are very glad to have him be the person that is celebrating the entire county with us.
Good morning. Thank you for being here today. It's a testament to your commitment to our kids, not only that you're being honored for the incredible things you're doing in your schools and classrooms, but that you spent your Saturday morning here working towards overcoming educational inequity. And I expect you have all solved it this morning, and I look forward to hearing your answers soon. And I had enough faith in your leadership that I thought you'd fix everything and I'd come here just to celebrate and give out the awards. But the people in this room and the schools you serve represent possibility. This is not easy work. It's often hard to know when we're getting it right, and it's so important that we celebrate you, that we appreciate the little victories that turn into larger ones, and that we keep our eye on the prize. The organizers of today's event asked me to speak for a few minutes about what I believe is necessary to move more schools in LA County to close the achievement gap for students of color. And I first want to say that a big part of that answer is to do more of what you are all doing. So first, thank you for that. And second, I see my job and the job of board members across the county as our job is to make it easier for you to do your job. For far too long, there's been a pervasive belief that certain groups of students couldn't succeed, that they weren't capable or weren't motivated or some insidious combination of the two. And you have all proven them wrong. So we're past the phase of can this be done? Because the answer is unequivocally yes. And we're at the phase, how can this be done at scale? That's the difficult question of today that are facing schools and districts across the country. But I don't believe it's necessarily more difficult than the question facing you 5, 10, 15 years ago, when what you're being recognized for today wasn't even thought possible. And I think these timelines are important. You know, Bill Gates once observed that we overestimate what we think we can do in 1 year, but we underestimate what we think we can do in 10 years. We won't close the achievement gap in the next year, but can we make significant progress in the next 10? I think we definitely can. And I believe that there are 3 things that will get us there. We need to drop the politics of education, and we need to focus on truly putting children first. We need to ask how and not why, and we need to invest in what works. So first, we need to drop the politics. We've been giving families and voters a series of false choices driven by political motivations and not by children. The first is a false dichotomy about whether we fix schools to end poverty or whether we have to end poverty to fix schools. And we know that the lived reality of our students and families is that public education is the most effective anti-poverty program that we have at our disposal. That we have 84% of our students in Los Angeles Unified living in poverty. We need to fulfill the promise that public education can change lives. So it's not about blaming schools on one hand or absolving them of responsibility on the other. It's about understanding the promise of our public schools and doubling down on our commitment to good schools as a result. The second false choice is between charter schools and district schools. I've never met a parent who sets out looking for a school type. And I've never met a kid who reflects on their school experience through the lens of whether it was a charter school or a district school. Parents want the best schools for their children, full stop. And kids want a caring environment that sets them up for success. And so I welcome the innovation that our charter schools have brought, and I'm also incredibly grateful for our district schools represented here who work day in and day out improving their schools to mitigate the need for new schools to open in the first place. You are all part of the solution. And we need to do a better job of bringing schools together, whether that's under a unified enrollment system where parents have a one-stop shop to see all of their school options, including our charters, apply and enroll, or through more transparent and collaborative facilities allocations. But the bottom line is that we need to reject the politics of division and subtraction and embrace the policies of addition and multiplication. Second, we need to ask how and not why. Too much of the conversation in Sacramento is on the why, and not enough on the how. How is it that you are all succeeding while others aren't? And how do we replicate what you're doing? We have a 2,500-page ed code and a crushing district bureaucracy that limits our schools' flexibility to innovate and better serve kids. I'd like to go page by page of that education code with you school leaders and rip out the pages that we don't need. And then we should adopt what's left and move on to our district policies and bulletins and regulations, because too many amazing school leaders that I know spend too much time trying to get around the district. The how questions, how do we make it work? How do we support you? How can we grow your program? Those questions should dominate the policy landscape. And finally, we need to invest in what works and abandon what doesn't. That means more funding, yes, and I can't leave here without telling you about Measure EE and voting on June 4th, but we need to be honest about where money is going and whether or not it's leading to student achievement. We've worked to amend our Student Equity Needs Index to invest more and more effectively in our highest need students. We're working in Sacramento to switch funding formulas from attendance-based formulas that penalize schools with transient populations to enrollment-based formulas, and working towards a more equitable distribution of our special education dollars. We've created our open data platform at LA Unified to be more transparent about our enrollment, our schools, our facilities, and our budget. And we're almost ready to launch our school performance framework to have an honest conversation about quality and the return on our investments. And some of these conversations, as you all know, are going to be tough. But as a civil rights champion and actually a law school professor of mine, Brian Stevenson, has said, we can't change the educational outcomes for children without doing some uncomfortable things. Today, though, the conversation is less uncomfortable because we get to celebrate how you are changing those educational outcomes. And on behalf of a grateful Board of Education, thank you. Thank you for showing up every day for kids, and thank you, most importantly, for lighting a candle and not just cursing the darkness. So it's a privilege to be in this work with you. It's my real honor to help recognize your schools and your achievement. So now we can get started with our awards. So thank you very much for having me and for all that you do.
The one last thing we have to do is a call to action. And so one of the questions that was posed to many of the leaders in I'm sure several of the breakout sessions is, how do we grow the number of schools that are in this room? And it is a question that I'm sure many of you, especially at the district and charter management level, I'm sure it's one you think about a lot. How do we support our principals? How do we support our teachers to ensure that all kids are achieving at high levels? And we think that this is a really important question. I want us to sit with it for a little bit, because we're going to have a speaker come and share with us from a personal perspective what this means for him, and I'll introduce him in just a second. But let's think about that together for just a moment. What will it mean for us to bring another school next year from our district or charter? What will it mean to double? High expectations, right? Going back to Miss Lacey's speech and comments with us today, that we are unwaveringly holding students to high expectations. Absolutely, and there's a science and a craft to that, right? There's something very specific. And so now, actually, I want us to get to the final part of our program, again, for you to continue your conversations at home on this call to action to grow the number of top schools by presenting David Price. So David Price is a youth pastor with First AME Church here in Los Angeles, which is a social justice institution which has lifted the community when it's been in challenges. And so we are very fortunate to have him here today. But not only is he a youth pastor at First AME and touches the lives of hundreds of students in First AME, he is also a LA Unified alum. And he is a fellow South LA son, and he is a son of the city and a person who gives back to the city. And so David Price, please close us out in celebrating all of the schools and sharing our call to action.
You've learned and discussed some things that impact the students, the children whom I serve on a daily basis. Los Angeles County has over 1 million black and brown children who need better schools, who need better opportunities, who deserve a chance to go to Harvard like I went to Harvard, who deserve a chance to go to Georgetown like I went to Georgetown, who deserve a chance to come back to Los Angeles and be the change that they want to see in the world. And so we have some work to do. Not just some work, but a lot of work. Can you all do me a favor? Can this table please stand? This table stand? This table, that table, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this table here. Can you all stand? These tables and the persons who are standing represent about 15% of the low-income black and brown students enrolled in schools that are closing the education gap. You all represent that number. And those of you who are sitting down represent those students whose schools are not closing the gap. This is the amount of work that we have to do. This is the gap that we're trying to close. Just take a round, take it in. Look at what we're facing. We have a lot of work to do. And as we continue to celebrate the success, you may take your seats. I just want to remind you of that reality. We must continue to use the tools that you all have been doing already and use them to inspire other educators, other superintendents, other school districts to replicate the models that are succeeding. And then bring more people into the room just like this, to have those conversations, to create those partnerships, and to share those ideas. And so I want to leave you with this message. Thank God we're not where we used to be, but we're certainly not where we want to be. So let's continue to do that work. Let's continue to inspire children, and let's continue to create a better future for Los Angeles County, California, and these United States. I feel like I'm in church. Can I get an amen? Amen. Amen. Thank you.
And thank you again. We are done with the celebration. Please enjoy wine, food, finish your lunch, and network. Leave getting to know someone new, and we'll see you next year. We'll see you next year at Top Public Schools.